The kind-hearted squirrel. One day, a little squirrel was taking a rest on a tree branch after a day of playing. Suddenly, he noticed a small crab not too far away, struggling in a large puddle of water. The crab's tiny claws flailed about, and it seemed like it might sink to the bottom of the puddle any moment. "Oh no! The little crab is drowning!" the squirrel exclaimed. In a hurry, he climbed down from the tree and pulled the small crab out of the water, placing it in a dry spot. But to the squirrel's surprise, the crab didn't seem grateful. It scuttled back towards the water puddle, seemingly determined to go back. "Wait! You can't go there. It's dangerous because there's water." The squirrel quickly pulled the crab back. In an effort to keep the crab in the dry spot, the squirrel gathered the tastiest pine nuts he had and piled them in front of the crab. He even used pine needles to create a barrier around the area to keep the crab safe. Come dinner time, he found it difficult to eat, thinking about the little crab. His mother noticed that something was amiss. Squirrel Mom was puzzled and realized that her child must be hiding something from her. The next morning, as Squirrel Mom stepped out, her little squirrel followed her. He made his way to the dry spot where the crab was and paid no heed to his mother, who was following him closely. Little did he know that Squirrel Mom was staying nearby to observe his actions, concerned about what her child was keeping a secret. When the little squirrel reached the dry spot, he saw that the crab was still there, looking despondent. The crab hadn't eaten any of the pine nuts he had left the previous day. The squirrel was on the verge of tears, feeling helpless. Squirrel Mom understood her child's determination and noticed his continuous concern for the little crab. She approached him and comforted him. "Dear, you can't go hungry and stay awake all night just because of the crab." The little squirrel replied, "But, Mom, I couldn't stop thinking about the crab. I couldn't eat, and I couldn't sleep." Squirrel Mom concluded that her child had a good heart and wanted to understand what was bothering him. Late at night, when it was time to sleep, the little squirrel kept looking outside. Squirrel Mom was convinced that her child had something to tell her and decided to stay awake to observe his actions. The next morning, when she pretended to leave, she kept a watchful eye on her little squirrel. She saw him sneak down the tree and head towards the crab's location, and she silently followed him. When the little squirrel reached the dry spot, he saw the crab, lying lifeless at the bottom of the pit, with no appetite for the pine nuts he'd offered. It was heartbreaking. Squirrel Mom gently touched her child's shoulder and said, "Silly child, were you so troubled just because of the crab?" The little squirrel replied, "When I saw the crab drowning, I remembered the time I almost drowned in the water. I wanted to help, but it didn't go well." Squirrel Mom explained, "It's important to let the crab choose its own way of life. While the water puddle is dangerous for you, it may not be the same for the crab." With sincerity, the little squirrel said, "I see. From now on, I promise I'll ask you for help when I don't understand something." Squirrel Mom was overjoyed and held her little squirrel tightly in her arms. This story teaches us about kindness and understanding, as well as the importance of seeking guidance when faced with something unfamiliar. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Find more story for kids.